We've gathered you all here today to discuss some PSAs that we're releasing nationally. There's some things that we would like to discuss that have brought about the release of these PSAs. One of them being the Park 51 controversy that you all are well aware of. We feel that's manufactured controversy by a small local group which aims to divide Americans. We've seen that some of the groups leading it, for example, Stop Islamization of America, one of those campaigns, if you go on their website, it's filled with anti-Muslim bigotry and Islamophobic material. We're not saying that all of the people who oppose the mosque are ascribing to that, but it is we feel, a big misinformation campaign that has spiraled out of control, leading to Islamophobia throughout the nation. We want to express with the message of the PSAs today that Muslims aren't foreign, that we are part of America too, and that 9/11 hit all of us hard, and that Muslims were victims and first responders. The PSAs challenge voices of hatred and division, and it's a narrative that must be set. In light of the increase in hate crimes, including vandalism and physical attacks on Muslims, we are asking local and federal authorities to provide protection for American Muslim mosques and institutions. Islamophobes have exploited the legitimate fears of some Americans by fear-mongering. Misunderstanding of Islam and Muslims has been twisted into a campaign of misinformation. Hate speech, we've seen, leads to hate crimes. The Dove World Outreach Center is a bankrupt church, and it's seeking publicity. It does not represent the Christian mainstream, and Christians confirm that. We've had positions, actions, and reckless behavior have been condemned by mainstream Christians, one of them being the National Association of Evangelicals. Our response to deliberate offense and provocation is to rededicate ourselves to cooperative efforts to unite with interfaith partners in community service. The local Muslim community efforts include open houses, interfaith scripture readings, and community service events, which have taken place in Gainesville throughout last week and this week, and will continue onward even after September 11th. CAIR has declared September 11th a National Day of Unity and Healing. Our guiding principle is summed up in the verse from the Quran, which states, "Evil and good are not equivalent. Repel that which is evil with that which is good. For he whom you may have enmity with may become a close friend." And we have copies of the Quran available to the press today as well. Now, one of the things that we are providing our community as well is a teachable moment toolkit, which encourages our community to look for ways to respond proactively and educationally throughout the state. And also, it's a safety kit at the same time for our community to be aware and safe during the 9/11 time, which happens to fall around the Eid holiday, which is the conclusion of the month of Ramadan and fasting. So Mala Abdurrahman, she is our legal fellow for the CAIR-Tampa chapter, and she will discuss some points in keeping our community safe. Mala?
Good morning, and thank you, Ramsey. I just wanted to remind everyone in the community to be extra vigilant at this time, given the rise in incidents across the country, attacks on mosques, and remind people to keep a number of numbers for law enforcement, including the FBI, your local police, on hand, so that way, if anything happens, you can make those phone calls and then reach out to the appropriate law enforcement officials. Also, because this is the month of Ramadan ending, and it's a month in which we encourage patience, then just reminding people to be peaceful at this time, not to engage anyone, say like if any protesters show up at your religious facilities, to film them as well, take still photographs of any individuals. If you can obtain names of individuals, keep those on record so that you can report those to the police also. And because CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations, is here to assist people in the community who have been discriminated against or wronged in any way, we are asking people to contact CAIR as well. They can go to the website at www.cair.com and file an incident report if anything should happen, as well as filing any reports to the police. Thank you.
My name is Glenn Payton. I'm a staff attorney with the ACLU of Florida, based here in Tampa. And I came out here today because the ACLU of Florida stands with CAIR against this wave of anti-Muslim sentiment. And as many of you know, the ACLU is a very big proponent of religious freedom and a very big protector of religious freedom. And we cannot let these the elements who would use September 11th, whether it's in the context of opposing the placement of an Islamic center in Lower Manhattan, whether it is a so-called church that would burn a holy book of another faith, although we are very much against censorship and we believe that people have the right to say things even when they are hateful and offensive, we also have at the same time an obligation to speak out against these repulsive forms of bigotry and religious hatred. So we came out here today to very forcefully express our belief that in America you don't hate people because of their faith, and you don't discriminate against people because of their faith, and you certainly don't give in to ethnic and religious stereotyping, which is unfortunately a very in vogue thing to do these days, and unfortunately a lot of people seek to exploit the tragedy of September 11th to act on the worst and ugliest fears that some people have.
I'm Dwight Lawton with Friends of Human Rights. Our organization's genesis came out of the Free Sami Al-Aryan movement, and we began to think beginning of this year that we should change our name to Friends of Human Rights. I'd like to echo some of the remarks that have been made before, especially by Mr. Cate from ACLU, is that we urge the people that are associated with us and who we influence to not react hastily and in a hated way, particularly with Florida here with this Dove Church and the burning of the Quran. I think the way we should go is follow the lead of CAIR and other Muslim organizations throughout the state who are speaking up and saying, appearing at their, and encouraging them by appearing at their, that burning, or whatever else they are doing is not an appropriate way. It just fosters more hatred. And what we really need is more love, and more care, and more respect for other organizations, other religious churches and religious organizations. So I'm here to say that there is a group in this area that is interested in coming together with all groups, as we have come together with some of the Muslim groups in the area and in Florida, and proceed with this. I think they really need a one-on-one thing. These meetings that we have and talk about what we're going to do often do not result in action. What we need to do is encourage people to understand, listen to each other, and that's what the United States is all about. More hate, more criticisms, more of this kind of action is not, we don't want to encourage that. We want to discourage that and talk about the positive things. And I think the biggest problem is we do not understand each other, we do not know each other, and that's what we need to do, have more of.
One thing that we wanted to point out also in response to the International Burn the Quran Day, one of the things we're doing is proactively throughout the state and also in the locale is sharing copies of the Quran for those who request it. They can contact our chapter. Our number is 813-514-1414, and we'll be willing to give those out. We also have copies available for the press today as well, and we're here to answer questions about Islam. The idea is that we want to clear up any misinformation that there is about Islam, and that we do not allow those who are considered fringe elements to speak for us. We are taking this opportunity to educate the public about who we are and create that dialogue and build those bridges. We are asking again the mosques to remain safe because a lot of times there is no warning. We've seen the mosque attacks that happened in Temecula and Murfreesboro and Queens and other places, and there's been no indication or warning of attack beforehand. So we are keeping it in mind to have our community remain safe and be on the lookout.
What's your biggest concern with the book burning on Saturday of either retribution or what?
Well, we're asking our community to remain calm, collected, because we know that it's not necessarily the burning of the Quran that physically reaches us or anything. It's the act. We know it's an act of provocation, and that he wants to see those in the Muslim world and here that are Muslim to become upset and maybe lash out. But we're calling on our community to remain calm and do what our Prophet would have done. The Prophet Muhammad. I'll give you an example. At one point he was praying before in the Kaaba, which is the central house of worship for Islam, and somebody threw the placenta of a camel on him during the prayer, and he kept on praying, and he remained calm and collected and didn't lash out with revenge. That's something that the Prophet strictly forbid, and we're calling on our community to do that today. I don't suspect that, we have seen protests around the world. There are extreme elements who will take the matter to, refuel anti-Muslim sentiment. And in actuality, the pastor, if you want to get technical, I think he's empowering those extremists on the other side of the world. I mean, you saw what the general had to say yesterday regarding putting troops in harm's way. That's our concern as well. I think we all should be concerned as Americans that it does fuel the hate on that side of the world. There are fringe elements there as well that can cause harm.
So this is a counterpoint specifically to the preacher in Gainesville more than anything else.
Specifically, what we're doing, it is, but we're taking this. This is something we've done not only as an organization as CAIR, but as the Muslim community. It's part of our responsibility and duty to educate people about Islam, Muslims. But the misinformation campaigns have gotten so out of hand that we need to step up the effort, because we can't have others speaking for us when there are lies being painted about us. It's what happened to the Jews, pre-Holocaust, and we don't want to see history repeat itself. Not to say it will in this republic, but you can't be too safe. There are attacks happening left and right for our community nationwide. There should be no fear of Muslims, no fear of Islam or Muslims. Again, there are fringe elements within our faith. There are fringe elements in every faith and every ethnicity and every society around the world. But we cannot create dialogue and build bridges when all of those fringe elements are always getting the headlines, or having the voice, or representing almost 1.5 billion Muslims. It's not fair. They're the minority, and we want to show that we have a voice as well. Mainstream Islam and Muslims.
You mentioned Eid a moment ago. Can you correct me? Eid al-Fitr, that happens this weekend?
Yes, it's either going to fall on Thursday or Friday this week.
I had read a while ago that, and this is before the whole Gainesville thing got attention, just obviously the Part 51 situation is brought up a lot of this hate, is that some organizations were telling Muslims to maybe not celebrate too, enthusiastically, because coming on the anniversary of so closely to 9/11, some could interpret that in a negative way.
I know that some communities have mentioned that they're going to take that course. To take that argument out of context, as an American, I would encourage them to celebrate freely and openly, and actually take that day as an opportunity to do good deeds throughout the community. We shouldn't live in fear. There are going to be maybe reprisals and backlash against our community, sure. That's why we're asking our community to remain safe. But that's the last thing I want to ask of our community, to not celebrate our holiday just because it's on or around 9/11. Because if we were to do that, then we're suggesting and falling into the argument that has been placed that Muslims are collectively responsible for 9/11, and we aren't. And those people who committed that terrorist attack on that tragic day do not speak for me, and they don't speak for Muslims around the world, I think.
Your biggest fear with Saturday, with what's going to happen in Gainesville, what did you see with all this between the pastor himself and then and with the protesters out there? This could turn into something even bigger with problems out there. What is your concerns?
Like everyone else, our biggest concern is that this not devolve into anything violent. If the Dove World Outreach Center wants to have a hateful display, it can do that, and we're very happy to see that the community has risen up to protest that. I certainly don't know of any plans on either side for there to be anything violent. So